The end of the year is approaching, and we are wrapping up 2019 with a few wrapped gifts just in time for December. So let's unwrap one of these real quick and see what we have in store. Oh hey, look, it's the 1955 classic Lady and the Tramp, which is the first Patreon request of December. Wait a minute, there's a post-it note here. The live action one? What live action one? I'm pretty sure I've seen every recent Disney live action movie in theaters. I don't think I missed a live action Lady and the Tramp. They didn't make that, did they?
With me, every day could be an adventure.
Nope, don't remember that. I'd remember something like that. Directed by Charlie Bean, best known for directing the Lego Ninjago movie, this live-action retelling of Lady and the Tramp was released by Disney Plus as a Day 1 exclusive. Of course, it joins a line of other 2019 live-action reimaginings, which include Aladdin, Dumbo, Lion King, even Maleficent Mistress of Evil that's based on Sleeping Beauty. Disney's been cashing in on this nostalgic craze, but honestly, the final products have ranged from average to pretty bad. They were steady with creating these at first, but this year went a bit overboard. Dumbo and Lion King were especially bad, so why did they suddenly need yet another remake to hit Disney Plus? I'm not the harshest critic of these movies. I typically find them to be serviceable enough, and they sometimes offer new things. For the most part, they seem forgettable, and after their initial release, I don't find many people talking about them. They've done all the popular movies already, but I didn't think Lady and the Tramp would have enough of a modern fan base to make a retelling worthwhile. After giving the thing a watch, I have to admit that it wasn't nearly as embarrassing or boring as I was expecting. Lady and the Tramp was never a favorite of mine, so I hadn't experienced the story in years, but watching this, I was reminded of the elements that made up the original film. The new version seems to pay tribute fine enough, while having a lavish set, digital effects, and standard song numbers. There's nothing really extraordinary here, but I almost kind of appreciate it for that. It doesn't attempt to make random changes or insert story beats to make the movie longer. Anything that is changed is almost done for the better and doesn't become distracting. It of course features the characters and plot you all remember. If you've seen Lady and the Tramp, then you've essentially seen Lady and the Tramp. The dog is treated like royalty, but then a baby is born and the dog feels threatened, and the tramp only heightens this fear, as he believes a baby will only overshadow Lady, and will eventually get rid of her, as he has a similar history, which is revealed in a rather heartbreaking flashback. Through the course of this movie, they develop a relationship, get chased by the dog catcher, and have to eventually save the baby from an outdoor rat breaking in the house. Like I said, it's pretty much the original movie, but with real-world sets filled with early 20th century aesthetic. The biggest compliment I can give is that the production value really lives up to what Disney can afford. A lot of the original Lady and the Tramp was based around an idealized world Walt had felt nostalgic for, much like what he created with Main Street USA in Disneyland. So while these streets can feel like movie sets at times, they also feel very genuinely like a Disney production, in only the best way. The talking dogs felt a little off at times, but it wasn't completely distracting like in other dog movies. I'm just glad they actually had real dogs on film, rather than digitally creating them. A lot of the smaller changes are pretty good. The racist Siamese cat sequence from the original isn't completely cut out here. They simply changed the song and the personalities of the characters, so it's not offensive, but still services the plot as originally intended. Certain story beats are inserted that change when certain things happen. For instance, Jim Deere and Darling come home before the climax, and actually spend time with Lady before the finale, which helps to develop their good-hearted relationship with the dog, rather than having it only dished out at the ending. And instead of an all-white cast, which would, I guess, historically make sense since this is the early 20th century, they instead ignore the culture of the time and pull a Hamilton, by having black actresses in the roles, helping to give the movie more diversity. There's also more random gender changes for the animals, but it doesn't really detract from the story too much. It's probably just done so certain actors could be cast in the roles. And the dog catcher actually gets more screen time, played out to be a comic foil. However, for the most part, it just doesn't really do much to stick out from the 1955 classic, which I don't have too much of a connection to anyway, so I don't have any personal feelings about a new version. It's better than The Lion King or Dumbo's, so it makes me question why this was the one that only got a Disney Plus release. But I guess that those other movies had a bigger following or bigger directors behind them. This one had a newer director with an older movie to base it on, so you're already at risk of losing an audience if you put this out in theaters. But just based on the ones that did hit theaters, I'm disappointed that this one will get overshadowed. It's nothing special, but it gets the job done better than the others. If you're a fan of Lady and the Tramp, I don't see you feeling one way or the other about this. It exists, much like the other reimaginings, but I guess it's pretty neat to see how they take these old classics and change them to fit modern standards, and this movie had the least amount of changes that felt unnecessary. It does nothing to improve upon the original, but it also doesn't tarnish the original. It succeeds in what it's doing, but it doesn't really make for a memorable experience. With so many of these new adaptations, they're all becoming lost in the shuffle. No one is really asking for these, but if they have to keep making them, I guess I would rather see something like this than something that flat out pays disrespect to the classic. Thanks to Elizabeth for this Patreon request, and thanks to all my Patreon supporters. For only $7, you can get your own monthly movie review. Ask me to review anything I haven't already. There's also other perks like blogs, exclusive videos, and early access. You can also follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And thanks so much for watching this video.